You don't turn on the light. There's no sound in the house, just the old hum of the heater. You're not sad exactly, just aware of everything, of how quickly time passed, of how many things were said too late, of how no one calls anymore unless something's wrong. You don't move because you're afraid that if you start moving, something will break. A memory, your composure, the strength you wore today like a coat. It's not that anyone did anything wrong, it's just the silence feels heavier than it used to. You breathe slowly. You don't pray out loud, but your thoughts start to move like whispers, and somewhere deep inside you wonder, would he still listen after all these years? Your mind drifts backward without permission. You remember a hymn your mother sang while folding laundry. She didn't sing it to you. She just sang. It was always the same song, softly and tenderly, Jesus is calling. You didn't understand it back then, didn't care to. You just liked the way her voice sounded when it drifted through the hall. Now, you hum it quietly like an apology. You wonder how much of her faith lives in you even now, even after all your doubts, even after you left the Bible untouched for years. She used to say he hears even the hums. You didn't believe her then, but tonight, alone in the quiet, you hope she was right. You always thought you'd have more time to explain yourself, to apologize, to tell them how much they meant. But time doesn't wait. It just walks past with its hands in its pockets whistling. Now, you sit in the same room where the arguments echoed. Same chair, different heart. You wish they knew how you felt now. You wish you'd said more while they were still listening. But silence came, and it stayed. So you sit remembering birthdays missed and phone calls you never returned, and the words you swallowed because pride had its hand around your throat. You whisper, "I'm sorry," into the air. No one answers, except a small stillness that wraps around your shoulders like a shawl. You know what regret feels like in the body, the ache in the chest, the way your breath catches at odd moments. You remember Peter denying Jesus not once, 3 times, loudly, in fear. You always judged him, until you did the same. Not with your voice, but with your silence, with your distance, with all the times you said you believed, but acted like you didn't want to be seen with him. Like faith was too embarrassing to wear in public. Now, like Peter, you hear the rooster cry, but it sounds more like the ticking of a clock. Too late, too far gone. But what if Jesus looked at Peter with love anyway? You used to keep journals, stacks of them, filled with dreams, prayers, ideas. Now they sit in a box in the garage, yellowing. You stopped writing the year everything went wrong. The year you told yourself not to hope again. It's easier that way. To let the ink dry. To let the past file itself away quietly. But tonight, something makes you reach for the drawer. You don't write. You just hold the pen. You remember what it felt like to believe your story wasn't over. To pray as if someone was reading every word. You almost whisper, "Are you still listening?" Not out loud, but your soul says it. And you feel like something shifts in the quiet. You close your eyes. The world fades. You're no longer in your room. You're in a crowd, dust in the air. So many people pressing forward. But you're not watching them. You're watching him. Jesus, walking calm through the people. And something in you knows if you don't reach for him now, you'll lose your chance. So you do. You push through. Your fingers brush the hem of his robe. It's not dramatic. He doesn't stop the whole world. He just pauses, looks around. His eyes find yours. And suddenly, you're not in a story anymore. You're seen, known, and your heart whispers what your mouth can't say. Please don't walk past me. The stillness is not empty anymore. It feels full. Not loud, but full. You can't explain it. Nothing dramatic happens. No voice, no angel. Just a shift. Like breath returning after holding it too long. You feel it in your fingertips, in the base of your neck. Like someone is close, but not forcing anything. You wonder, could this be what prayer feels like before words like presence? Like being listened to before you speak? You don't rush it. You sit in it. You let it wrap around you like an old blanket warm from memory. And somewhere deep without fanfare, you sense it. You're not alone. You hear it. Not with your ears, but with your soul. He says your name. Just your name. No sermon, no judgment, not even a question. He just says it and stays. He doesn't hurry. He doesn't try to fix you. He doesn't point to the things you did wrong. He sits across from you like an old friend who never gave up. You want to cry, but you don't. You want to apologize, but he's not asking. He already knows. He's just here, in the room, in the silence, in the ache. And suddenly, it's enough. You believe he's been here all along. You didn't expect it to hurt and heal at the same time. But it does. Like exhaling after holding your breath for years. Like crying and smiling in the same moment. You don't feel fixed, but you feel held. And somehow that's more honest. The ache is still there, but it no longer owns you. You look around, and the room looks softer, or maybe it's your eyes. You remember the stories where Jesus wept, where he stayed even when people didn't believe, and you think if he stayed for them, maybe he stays for you too. You don't know what comes next, but you know this, you're not invisible anymore. You lay back. The pillow holds your head like a blessing. You exhale one final time. No speeches, no confessions, just rest. And he doesn't vanish. He doesn't slip away now that you're quiet. He stays, beside the bed, near the window where your prayers once got stuck. You can't see him, but your soul feels settled in a way it hasn't in years. You don't need to ask for anything tonight. He's already given it. Not answers, not explanations, just presence. And that's all you wanted, wasn't it? To not be alone, to not be forgotten. As your eyes close, the thought comes like a lullaby. He is still here. It doesn't knock. It just arrives. A memory you haven't seen in years. That night, that voice, the thing you promised yourself to forget. You feel it in your chest before your mind catches up. It tastes like shame, like dust on old photos. You never talk about it. No one knows what really happened. You kept it buried, dressed it in silence. But tonight it rises, not to punish, just to breathe. It's strange how one moment can bend a lifetime. You ask yourself, did I ruin everything? But then, softer than guilt, another question forms. Could this be the night where it finally gets released? He was not a man of many words. But he sang, always the same hymn. Great is thy faithfulness. He sang it shaving. He sang it before your mother's surgery. He even sang it the day they told him it was terminal. You didn't understand how he could trust so much. You were angry for him. He just smiled. Said faith wasn't something you explained. It was something you wore. Tonight, that hymn plays in your memory like an echo from the hallway. And, for a moment, you stop being angry. You wonder if he's singing it still somewhere beyond time. And if he is, you whisper the chorus with him, because maybe, just maybe, faith is inherited. You were the strong one, the responsible one, the one who held everyone together while quietly falling apart. You put on the mask and called it maturity, smiled when your world was crumbling, said, "I'm fine" more times than you've ever said I need help. Tonight, there's no one left to perform for, and you don't remember who you are beneath the layers. Just tired, just quiet, just you. You stare at your own reflection, wondering, if Jesus saw this version, would he turn away? But something inside says no, because he didn't come for the masks. He came for the hidden face beneath. You never thought you'd relate to her. The woman who interrupted the dinner party, who wept and wiped his feet with her hair. The one everyone whispered about. But now you understand. You understand what it means to have nothing left to lose. To offer tears instead of answers. To fall at his feet because standing upright takes too much strength. You are her, in your own way. Ashamed, brave, desperate for mercy. You can almost feel the cold stone floor beneath your knees, the silence in the room, and then his voice. Not to scold, not to shame, just to say you are seen, and you are still mine. You thought you'd moved on. You thought time erased things. But shame is clever. It learns your voice. So when it whispers, it sounds like you. I should have known better. I ruined everything. God must be tired of forgiving me. It doesn't shout. It seeps into your prayers, into your posture, until even silence feels accusing. You try to tell yourself the truth that you're forgiven, that grace isn't rented, but shame always returns at night. Until you remember. Jesus didn't send the accuser. He silenced him. And maybe, just maybe, he's still silencing him now every time you believe he still loves you. You close your eyes and suddenly you're not here. You're in Gethsemane. It's dark. The trees whisper. The disciples sleep nearby. And there Jesus, kneeling, alone, wounded by what hasn't even happened yet. You watch him pray, not the calm prayers of stained glass. No, this is sweating blood prayer. This is take this cup from me kind of honesty. And for the first time you realize you're allowed to pray like that too. Raw, scared, begging. You sit with him, not to say much, just to know you're not the only one who's asked to be spared, and still said yes. It takes everything in you. The truth has lived in your bones for decades, unspoken, unshared. It hardened into silence. But tonight you whisper it, just once, just to God. You expect the walls to shudder, the wind to still, but nothing happens. Nothing but stillness, stillness, and peace. You realize that hiding it cost more than confessing it, that the ache wasn't in the mistake, it was in the silence that followed. And now it's said. No thunder, no condemnation, just a sense that heaven already knew and waited patiently until you were ready. The tears come without warning. One, then another, then all at once. You try to hide them even now. Old habits die slowly. You think if Jesus saw me like this, he'd turn away. But he doesn't. He looks straight at you, not with pity, not with judgment, with something softer, like someone who's wept before. He doesn't tell you to stop. He doesn't rush you. He stays, like a friend who knows that silence is the kindest sound. You cry, really cry, for the first time in years, and it doesn't feel like weakness. It feels like release, because when he stays, you finally believe you're worth staying for. You haven't touched the thermostat, but the air feels different, not warm, just safe. Like something sacred moved in and made itself at home. You sit on the edge of the bed, not talking, not thinking, just being. There's no music, no lights, just presence. And for the first time in a long while, you don't feel like you have to earn this. You're not performing for God. You're just with Him. And that is enough. You let your hands rest in your lap. You breathe slowly and realize this stillness is holy, and it belongs to you too. You've spent years hiding chapters, pages torn out, lines crossed through, thinking, if he knew this part, he wouldn't stay. But now, you know, he knew all along, the story, the secrets, the slips and falls and second chances. He didn't miss a single sentence. And still, he stayed. Not just at the ending, through it, inside it. You exhale, and for the first time you believe that maybe the story isn't ruined. It's just unfinished. And the author, he's still writing. The covers feel softer tonight. Not because the fabric changed, but because your body finally lets go. You've clenched your fists for decades, holding in guilt, grief, names you never called again, dreams you left on voicemail. But tonight, your hands open. Just rest on the blanket like they remember how. The stillness isn't empty. It's full of permission to rest, to be, to not carry every burden to tomorrow. You don't need to explain why. God understands even the silence of your fingers. You whisper, I don't want to be afraid anymore. And you feel it, something holy between skin and sheet. Not freedom yet, but the beginning of it. She's been gone for years. But tonight, her voice returns, not as memory, but melody. She used to sit by the window, Bible open on her knees, murmuring psalms under her breath like lullabies to God. You didn't listen then. You do now. You hear the tremble in her voice, the strength beneath it, and for a moment it becomes your own. Though I walk through the valley, you whisper it with her. Not out of duty, out of recognition. You're walking that valley now. But if her faith made it through, maybe yours can too. You can almost hear her say, He never left me, child. Not once. You don't cry every night now, but you miss them. Still, quietly, in little ways. In the way you reach for 2 plates by habit. in the space they filled on the couch now too tidy. Grief doesn't yell anymore. It just sits beside you like a quiet friend who stays. You thought letting go meant forgetting, but that was never true. You remember everything, and that remembering has become less sharp, more like a worn photo you no longer hide. God doesn't ask you to stop missing. He just offers to miss them with you. And somehow, that's enough to sleep again. You never liked blood, or the cross, or pain. It all felt too much, too ancient, too distant. But tonight, you close your eyes, and there he is, not polished, not glowing, but bleeding, bare, looking at you, and you feel it, not guilt, not horror, but something else, a kind of love that carries things, carries shame, carries loss, carries you. You thought he suffered in general, for humanity, but no. He looked at your face and stayed on the cross. And suddenly, the most unbearable moment in history feels like a personal rescue. You spent years rehearsing what you should have done, what you shouldn't have said. But tonight, something changes. The room feels lit, not from lamps, from something warmer. Like mercy turning pages of your life without flinching. You don't forget what happened. You just don't blame yourself in the same tone. You whisper, "I didn't know any better." And for once, it doesn't feel like an accuse. It feels like grace. God doesn't rewind time, but he wraps it. And in this light, even your worst moments look different, not erased, redeemed. And that makes all the difference. The story returns. Two men, walking with Jesus, not knowing it was him. He didn't announce himself. He walked, asked questions, listened. You feel it, that same kind of presence, unassuming, real. You're not on a dusty road, but you've walked miles in grief, in doubt. And you wonder, has he been beside you this whole time, even when you didn't recognize him? Even in those years you barely prayed. Yes, you believe it now. Maybe, like them, your eyes are finally opening. Not because he arrived, but because you're finally still enough to notice. You've been strong long enough, too long. You carried everything. The holidays, the hospital visits, the unspoken fears. Tonight, God doesn't need your strength. He offers his instead. You let go. You let yourself be tired. You lie down without fixing everything, without solving the family, without finishing the prayer. It's enough that your eyes are closing, that your heart still beats, that your breath still comes. God knows how much you've carried, and he's never asked you to carry it alone. You whisper nothing, and in that nothing he is near. He doesn't bring a lecture or a list, just presence. You don't see him, but the room changes when he comes. The shadows shift. The silence softens. He doesn't touch you, but you feel known. He doesn't speak, but every fear quiets. You turn your face toward where he is, and it feels like enough. You don't need answers or guarantees. You just need not to be alone. And tonight you aren't. He sits beside you. And somehow that changes everything. You've forgotten what peace feels like. Not the kind you pretend for others. The kind that settles behind your ribs. That one. It comes now slowly, like sleep doesn't have to be fought anymore. Your shoulders loosen. Your chest stops bracing. You're not afraid to rest. Not afraid to let go. God doesn't rush you. He just waits. Waits until your breath matches His rhythm. Until your heart no longer races ahead of His promises. Until you remember you're safe. And even if the world turns rough tomorrow tonight, you are held. You're still. The house is quiet. The heart too. Not because all is solved, but because something deeper has settled. Mercy. It wraps you like a blanket that knows every scar. It doesn't ask questions, doesn't keep score. It simply covers. You feel no need to explain, no urge to prove. You close your eyes knowing this if you never prayed again. He'd still stay. If you never moved again, He'd still hold you. And as the night deepens, one truth remains. He was always here, and He always will be. Pray for when you feel like it's too late to come home. Lord, I didn't think You would still want me. I waited too long, wasted too much, said too little. But I'm tired of pretending You don't matter. If You're still here, please stay. Amen. You can rest now. You've carried those memories, those regrets for longer than anyone knows. You've replayed the moments, tried to rewrite the past in silence. But tonight, you didn't have to be strong, and you weren't alone. God was there when the words wouldn't come. He stayed in the ache. He sat with you in the shadows of everything you never got to fix. And still, He called you by name. So breathe slow. Let your shoulders drop. You are not abandoned, not forgotten, not too late. Your soul was heard. Your silence was sacred. And right now, in this breathless hush, you are held. Even as your eyes begin to close, He is still here, watching over you like the softest light that never leaves. If this moment met you where you needed, if your chest loosened, if your soul finally whispered something it had kept buried, then stay close. Subscribe if you want to keep His voice within reach when yours feels too tired to rise. Share this video if someone you love needs to know it's not too late to come home. And if you feel safe to do so, I would be honored to hear your story in the comments. What's one moment you never thought God could meet you in? But tonight, maybe He did.